All right, this week's Huddle Activity is about victimitis, or a quick bell ringer. What do you think victimitis means? All right, our big thing is going to be fighting off victimitis. So, what is victimitis and how does it affect your life? What can you do to fight this off? Okay, those are our essential questions for this lecture, this activity this week. So, itis is a suffix used in pathological terms that denotes inflammation and hence abnormal states or conditions, excesses, tendencies, obsessions, etc. So, what does victimitis mean? Many people believe that they are victims in life, that they have no control over their lives and the world is out to get them. This is often not true, yet many people have completely given away their power to change their lives because of this belief. This is what we call victimitis. It's like a virus that can get worse and spread if it is not stopped. So, a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor. He was a Jewish Austrian psychiatrist who survived being a prisoner of a concentration camp during the Holocaust. He endured horrible events including physical and mental torture during his imprisonment and losing his brother, mother, and wife at the hands of the Nazis. Enduring these tragic happenings, Frankl would not let them break him. He continued to be an inspiration, helping new inmates adjust, giving motivational speeches, and organizing a suicide watch. Picture of him up there on the far right. After surviving the Holocaust, he wrote the book Saying Yes to Life in Spite of Everything, a psychologist experiences the concentration camp, also known by the English title Man's Search for Meaning, which is the one I've heard. His book and life prove that even the most dire of circumstances, we have a choice over our attitude and our ability to find meaning in life. Now, when we talk about this a little bit, I'll do an aside here as a social studies teacher. There are societal factors and things that can hurt us, that are against us, that we do need to attack and fix. That doesn't mean that we have no agency, right? What this is saying is that there might be things stacked against you, but you still have the personal ability or agency or responsibility to try to fix them, right? To take control. This victimitis thing doesn't mean that there aren't actual things in your way, but what it's saying is that you can attack those things and you can try to fix those things. So, what is a victor? How was Viktor Frankl a victor? A victor is a person who has overcome or defeated an adversary, right? A winner, right? So how is he a winner? Obviously, I'd say he survived the Holocaust, which is insane to go through all that stuff and be able to survive it. Those of you that have taken either my AP or my regular U.S. class have seen some of the insanity that went into this, and people surviving it makes you a victor in my eyes. But he also was able to continue on and help people, right? Obviously, he's a psychiatrist, right? Or a psychologist, right? He was in a career where he was trying to help people, right? Then all that gets taken from him by the Nazis, and they put him in a concentration camp, and you know what he does? He keeps helping people, right? What personal strengths and abilities did he use to turn around a situation? Insane amounts of just strength and optimism to continue going, right? But we'll move on. Nelson Mandela, another important historical figure. Mandela grew up in South Africa, a country with strict apartheid policies. So apartheid was like racial segregation here in America, but on steroids and lasting for a lot longer, right? So really it prohibited non-white people from the same political and economic opportunities from white people. That makes it sound a little bit nicer. Black people were forced into slums and ghettos, and they had to work in basically slavery-like conditions, although slightly changed, right? Sort of like sharecropper-like conditions, up until the 90s. They had segregated South Africa until the 90s, right? This makes it sound a little bit nicer than it actually was. It was awful to be a black person in South Africa. This guy, Nelson Mandela, dedicated his life to ending apartheid and forging opportunities for black South Africans. As a result of his protesting and his leadership in the protest movement, he was imprisoned in labor camps in South Africa for 27 years, despite worldwide support for his release. He was put in a cage that was 6 feet by like 4 feet. It was a tiny cage, and he had to be in there for years and years and years, except for when they let him out to labor. However, through a lot of international pressure, and I will say this, unfortunately not enough international pressure by the United States, but after a lot of international pressure, he was released. Then ran for president and became the president of the African National Congress, Within 4 years, he was the president of the Republic of South Africa. In 1993, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to end apartheid. So how is he a victor? Well, he overcame the insane segregation and racism in his country, and being imprisoned for 27 years to become president and do away with state-sanctioned segregation in that country. What personal strengths and abilities did he use to turn around a situation? Holy crap. Imagine being locked up for that long. Imagine being faced in your everyday life that they will kill you if you say, well, I think we, people that look like me, who have the same citizenship as you, should have the ability to live wherever we want. Could get you killed. Could get you put in jail for 27 years. And he still went through with it. Super important guy. All right. So, there's a movie called Invictus, right, which is partly about Nelson Mandela. Every morning when he was in prison, Mandela started his day by reading the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley. In this scene, the captain of the South African rugby union team, played by Matt Damon, visits Mandela in his prison cell. Let's watch this clip. Hopefully the sound works. We'll find out. The sound does work, but it's not very loud. All right, I'm going to go back to it. So here I can turn up the volume. There we go. All right, now we watch it. He's seeing Mandela's cell.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the bed from bone to bone, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the veil of collective circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of fate, I hear this bloody but unbound. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet, the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
All right. Moving on. Whenever they have videos, it gets me. So here's the poem. You just heard it. What I'd like you to do, and I'm not sure what it has on the assignment, is just read it and tell me, what do you think it means? What is this poem telling you to do, right? Or telling Mandela, what's it reminding him to do, right? So explain to me what the poem means, right? How would you explain it to someone who had never heard the poem? That's all you got to do is that second part right there, okay, with this one. So, wrap up. What can we do to, what can you do to fight off victimitis? It's important to acknowledge that in everybody's life, we have things in our way. We have barriers, and a lot of times they aren't self-imposed. But you need to embrace the fact that you do have the power to change your social station in life. It might not be easy, and I would argue in America it's not as easy as it should be in the land of opportunity, but you do have a chance to improve your position, right? One thing that we have to acknowledge about this victimitis thing is that we all, like I said, we're all victims of something. When it becomes a huge problem is when we allow that victimhood to determine the rest of our actions, right? Say, well, I can't do anything about it because of this or this or this, or everything's against me, and blah, 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 blah. I don't deserve this. I didn't do anything to deserve this. This isn't my fault, blah, 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 blah. lots of life isn't your fault. Lots of things happen to you, right? But you can't ever give up your ability to change your station, your agency in your own life. You can't give that up. When you give that up, then you basically give up your freedom in many ways. So how are the stories of Viktor Frankl and Nelson Mandela inspirational examples of taking control of your life? I mean, they're pretty extreme examples, right? These guys did some pretty insane stuff in their lives, great things. You might not become a civil rights icon in South Africa or in Colorado or whatever, right? But you can take the idea that if they can get through that stuff, I can get through this. I can get through blank, right? So write about how can you fight out victimitis in your life and be victorious. If there's room for that on there, just write one thing. Here's what I would say. I would write down one thing that is against you in life, right? One thing that's been stacked against you, right? Something that you're a victim of. And then brainstorm a couple ways that you can fix it. And that appears to be the end of the PowerPoint. So, the sheet will be attached to this. Most importantly, as I say every week, do your check-in. Your check-in is most important. I need to know how you're doing. But with that said, we'll talk again next week.